Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to do a reaction video today. Another one that Mom found, so this will be my raw reaction.
It's actually a music video.
Oh, it's a music video.
This is our first music video reaction. Feel free to stop it and be in the middle. This is from an artist that I love. Probably nobody else has heard of her. Her name is Lissy. I know Miranda's heard of her because I loved her rendition of Nothing Else Matters 10 years ago, 10 years ago. This is a song called America, and it was first sung by Simon and Garfunkel. It's a beautiful song, but what I want you to see is the video, because this is the America that I grew up in. This is the America that my mom and dad grew up in. And I watched it and I cried because I want that America back. And I wanted to introduce that America to Miranda because I'm not quite sure she's seen it before.
Possible. Well, we'll get into it and see.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag, so we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner's pies and walked off to look for America. I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh.
That's more when I was little.
Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. I've come to look for America. Laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces.
So I think the thing that I'm noticing the most here is that people are spending more time with each other than they are with their devices.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what we miss in today's day and age, is just togetherness and like kids being outside playing and just living life disconnected from electronics. I think that's the biggest thing I'm seeing so far.
And this is an Asian family, home movies from the 60s. The others were, or 50s. The other was a black husband and wife, home movies, 50s and 60s. Does that ring true to what you're taught today about what it was for black people or Asians in the 50s or 60s?
No, it doesn't.
You're lied to. You're lied to. And these home movies show you the truth. And that's how come I cried
from real people
when I watched this, because these were real family home movies that showed that show you the truth, not the lies that you're told today.
She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. I said be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Toss me a cigarette, I think there's one in my raincoat. You smoked the last one an hour ago. So I looked at.
There's the white boys riding bareback, and there's a hay wagon full of people, both black and white, rural America, where we are supposed to believe that racism was still such a big bad thing.
Yeah.
And then today, when I try to say that's not the America that I grew up in, then I'm called a racism denier.
Yep.
And this is
It's stupid.
what they've done to America, tearing at its fabric by saying black stay with black, white stay with white, Asian stay with Asian, and then making white people to be the bad people. I didn't live with any of that. I wasn't raised with any of that. That's been infused into our really pumped bad since 2010. And it's just been a constant battle of just pounding it at you from every angle for 15 years until that today people believe that that's the truth. If you tell a lie long enough, it can become true, is what they think anyway.
And I think another thing to add here that is important is perspective. Everyone's perspective on this time frame is different, I'm sure, especially in reference to like North versus South. In the South, it's possible that things were still pretty bad. But in the North, where we are at, it's not the way it is.
I don't know if you remember when I told you about when I went down to Birmingham. Do you remember that story?
Yep.
I went down to Birmingham, stayed with my aunt and uncle who lived there, and we were out. This was 1976. I was 9. I was 9, the summer of before I turned 10. And we were outside in the front yard playing, and across the street was a brother and sister that were watching us. And we were playing badminton. And so I thought, the more the merrier, go get them and they'll play with us. And so there wasn't a lot of traffic in the residential place that my aunt and uncle lived. And so I went across the street. Normally you're not supposed to go across the street, but I did because I wanted to invite, it was a little boy and a little girl. The boy was odd. The girl was older than the boy. And so I asked them if they wanted to come and play with us. And when I went across the street to approach them, they kind of stepped back from me. And I didn't understand what that was. And then I said, "Do you want to come and play with us?" And they wouldn't talk. They just shook their heads. And then I said, "You're watching, come play." And they just kept shaking their head at me until their mom came and took them and went in the house. And I didn't understand any of that when I was that age. And I didn't understand it until years later when I started hearing about the South versus the North. And to me, it was just a brother and a sister watching us, but it was a black brother and sister that were watching us. Color meant nothing to me. That it was a little boy and a little girl. But in that culture, in that time, it meant something to them.
Yep.
So I can honestly say racism isn't in the hearts of white people. Because I'm a white person and I lived it and it wasn't there. I just wanted more people to play with us, and it was a little boy and a little girl about our age. And that's not something that was allowed by the mom and dad, or by the mom, I'm assuming, because she probably couldn't trust us because of everything that had happened down in Alabama that I didn't understand. So,
yeah. So, yeah, I think it's important to note that the realities are probably different depending on where you grew up. And it's not racism denial. It's differences in culture, differences in your geographic location, and how the culture there was during these times. And I don't think it's fair that if you're from Louisiana, Alabama, somewhere deep south,
Georgia, Mississippi,
and you come up to somewhere where, like we're at in the Midwest, and we don't see it the same way, I don't think it's fair to then say that we are racism deniers, because that's not true.
I remember when we were going through Mississippi, There was more than one when Dad needed to, whenever we got to a half a tank, Dad would start looking for where he was going to gas up. And so as we were going on this highway, there would be little gas stations on the highway as we went. And he would just say, oh, nope, we're not stopping there. Oh, no, we're not stopping there. And years later, when I asked Dad, why didn't you stop at some of those places in Mississippi? And then he said, well, it wouldn't have been safe. And then I said, wouldn't have been safe for who? Well, for us, you got to look around. It wouldn't have been safe for us. So Dad was afraid as a white person to stop at some of the places that were all black. Mm-hmm. And that has nothing to do with Dad being racist. He was protecting his family. And he understood at that time what had happened, what was happening in Mississippi.
He knew the temperature
amongst the races.
Of the culture war that was happening between
all
races.
That stuff I didn't understand. I was too little. But then when I would remember years later when I was older, it's like, okay, why did we not stop at some of those places? And then you had to ask him why. And then, of course, he would tell you. It was just out of safety.
I think it's highly insensitive to believe that everyone shares the same experience and that all places were the same at the same time. And if you understand anything about how slavery was defeated, it was North versus South, and who won?
The North.
The North. So.
And then racism had to be re-injected into our society, and that's why I wanted you to see this, because this shows that racism was re-injected 15, 20 years ago. And we are in a worse place now than ever in my lifetime. And that's been done on purpose. I didn't even know what racism
was when I was a kid.
No.
Like, people were just people. Didn't matter who or what color they were.
Yep.
They were just another person.
So.
That they just had they ate different foods, and they had different accents,
cultures.
And the culture was different, but they were just still a person, just from somewhere else.
Exactly.
So it was never they're Chinese, or they're,
right?
They're black, or whatever connotation that someone wants to put on these people. I don't understand, because that was never the world that I grew up in. But now you look around and you'd think that we're like back in the day when they're having to march for civil rights, when that's not true.
This is called a color revolution.
It makes no sense to me.
We're going to explain how we got here. I know how we got here, and we will explain that.
The world that I grew up in was not a world where people were racist to one another.
No.
And I think it's worse now, because people are playing into the stereotypes that have been given to each race. And so it's causing more issues.
And then those flames fanned and fanned and fanned. And so I wanted to put this out there to say, this is the America that I want back.
Me too.
And this is the America that we're going to fight for.
This is the America that I want for my kids.
Yep.
At the scenery, she read a magazine.
And that could be my little brother and the neighbor kid. That could be back in the 70s, same thing. And there he is. There he is sharing his course. I mean,
Kathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she was sleeping. I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike, they've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for America.
I'm a little nervous.
That's the America I want back. And that's the closest thing that I could show you to my childhood. How I grew up. You know, I tell my children, this is how I grew up. This wasn't like this when I was little, you guys. You need to understand that. And so when I watched this video, it's like, you know what? This is what my kids will understand, what my childhood was like. We didn't deal with this stuff. We got to be kids. We got to just grow up and be kids. And that's what I want for my grandkids. I want them to grow up like I did, to just be kids. So, there's our first reaction video.
What a reaction.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
I think it's just sad. Especially for my generation, because we're going to be bringing up the next generation in this type of world, and that's really hard. And you know this, but there was a time where I was like, should I even have kids?
And I said yes. Because you can create whatever world you want. Remember, do you remember watching the movie A Beautiful Life with me?
I don't
or
know.
maybe it was Amanda, maybe you were too little. And it was based on a true story of the man. You can look it up and pop it in there. The man that lived in a concentration camp with his child, and he created a whole different world for his child while living in a concentration camp, so that she never knew where she was. So he could successfully do that. He successfully made a beautiful life for her. So he had to live in the concentration camp, but she didn't have to. And we can do that for our kids. So I would suggest that movie to anybody. And I won't tell you how it ends. So have babies. Have babies, because you can create a beautiful life. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. You can create a beautiful life for them.
Well, and that's part of what swayed me too, was that if we stop having kids because we don't want to raise them in the world that is currently, then you contribute to allowing it to persist.
Yep.
Because
let
if you're not
let the
adding
evil
to-
win.
Yeah,
You let the
if you're
darkness
not adding
win.
to the good in the world, then you're just allowing the bad to take over.
Yep.
So, and that's why I want to have a lot of kids, because
Yes.
the more that you have, the more that they'll have, and the more good there will be in the world, because we will raise them right.
Yep.
And we will get back to what America used to be.
I think that's a good place to end. Thank you all for watching us cry and help us fight to get that America back.
Amen. God bless. See you in
Bye.
the next one.